Her voice in my heart. I still remember that day so clearly. It was sunny, and the park was alive with the sounds of birds singing and children playing. The air smelled of fresh grass, and the sky was the brightest shade of blue. I stood under a large oak tree, holding a bouquet of flowers. My heart was racing, and my hands were shaking. I had never felt so nervous. Her name was Jennifer. She was the most beautiful woman I had ever known. Her smile could light up a room, and her laugh was like music. She had soft brown hair that shone in the sunlight and eyes that seemed to see right into your soul. For months, I had loved her in silence, afraid to share my feelings. But that day, I decided to take a chance. I arrived at the park early and picked a quiet spot under the tree where she usually walked. I rehearsed my words again and again, but my mind was a mess of emotions. I wondered if she would say yes, or if she would laugh and walk away. The thought of rejection made my stomach twist. Then I saw her. She was walking slowly, wearing a light blue dress that flowed in the gentle breeze. She looked like a vision, like something out of a dream. I could barely breathe as I watched her approach. My hands gripped the flowers tightly, and I wiped the sweat from my forehead. "Hi, Jennifer," I said, my voice shaking. She stopped in front of me, her smile warm and inviting. "Hi," she replied. Her voice was calm, and it gave me a little courage. "These are for you," I said, holding out the flowers. She took them, her eyes sparkling with surprise. "They're beautiful," she said, looking at me with curiosity. "What's the occasion?" I swallowed hard and took a deep breath. "I have something to tell you," I said. My heart was pounding so loudly that I thought she might hear it. "Jennifer, I love you. I have loved you for a long time, and I want to ask you something important." Her expression softened, and she tilted her head slightly, waiting for me to continue. "Will you marry me?" I asked, my voice trembling. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. The park, the birds, the children playing, it all faded away. All I could see was her face. She looked at me, her eyes full of emotion, and then she smiled. "Yes," she said simply. Her voice was steady, but her eyes glistened with happiness. That one word made my heart soar. I felt as if the whole world had opened up before me. We sat together under the oak tree, talking and laughing as the afternoon turned into evening. We dreamed about our future, about the life we would build together. The sun set slowly, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. It felt like the universe was celebrating with us. That day, I became the happiest man alive. Jennifer said yes, and my world changed forever. It was the start of a journey, a story of love and hope that I carry in my heart even now. After Jennifer said yes, my life felt like a dream. We started planning our future together. Every day was filled with laughter, excitement, and love. We talked about everything, where we would live, how many children we wanted, and the kind of life we would build. Jennifer loved simple things. She loved flowers, especially daisies, and she always stopped to smell them when we walked in the park. She enjoyed reading, and she could spend hours lost in a good book. I loved watching her smile as she turned the pages, her face glowing with joy. One day, we visited a small cottage on the edge of the village. It had a garden full of wildflowers and a little wooden fence. Jennifer fell in love with it instantly. "This could be our home," she said, her eyes shining with excitement. I couldn't say no to her. We decided to save every penny to buy it. Life was not always easy. I worked long hours at a factory, and Jennifer taught children at a nearby school. We didn't have much money, but we had each other. That was enough. In the evenings, we would sit by the fire talking about our dreams and sharing our hopes. One cold winter night, I came home tired and hungry. Jennifer had made a simple dinner of soup and bread. She greeted me with her warm smile and a kiss. "I know it's hard," she said, holding my hand, "but one day all of this will be worth it." Her words gave me strength. A year passed, and we finally saved enough to buy the cottage. It wasn't perfect. The roof leaked and the windows were old, but it was ours. Together, we worked to make it a home. I repaired the roof, and Jennifer planted flowers in the garden. We painted the walls and fixed the broken fence. On a warm spring evening, we stood in the garden holding hands. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers. "We did it," Jennifer said softly. I looked at her, my heart full of love. "Yes, we did," I replied. "That little cottage became our haven. It was where we laughed, cried, and grew together. It was where we dreamed and built a life full of love. Even now, when I close my eyes, I can see it clearly. I can hear Jennifer's laughter and feel the warmth of her hand in mine." It was the beginning of a beautiful journey, one that I will never forget. Life in our little cottage was full of simple joys. Every morning, I woke up to the sound of birds singing outside our window. Jennifer would already be in the garden, watering her flowers or picking fresh vegetables for breakfast. Her love for the garden made it come alive with colors and scents. We didn't have much, but we made the most of what we had. Jennifer baked bread every week, filling the house with a warm, comforting smell. I fixed small things around the house, like creaky doors or broken chairs. Each task brought us closer, and we always found a reason to smile. One evening, we decided to invite our neighbors for dinner. Jennifer cooked a big meal with vegetables from our garden. I set up a table outside under the stars, hanging small lanterns to light the night. Our neighbors came with their children, and we shared stories, laughter, and food. It was a night full of happiness and friendship. As the seasons changed, so did our lives. Winters were cold, but we stayed warm by the fire, wrapped in blankets and telling stories. Summers were bright, with long walks through the fields and picnics by the river. Every moment felt special because we were together. One day, Jennifer surprised me with big news. She told me she wanted to learn how to play the piano. I didn't know how we could afford one, but I promised her we would find a way. For weeks, I worked extra hours, saving every coin I could. Finally, I found an old piano at a second-hand store. When I brought it home, Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. "You did this for me?" she asked, her voice soft with emotion. I nodded, smiling. You make me happy every day. This is the least I can do. Watching her play her first notes on the piano became one of my favorite memories. Our little cottage was filled with music after that. Jennifer practiced every evening, and her songs filled my heart with peace. Sometimes I would sit beside her, closing my eyes as she played. Those moments reminded me how lucky I was to have her in my life. The days passed quickly, but they were full of love and laughter. Even when things were hard, we faced them together. Our cottage was not just a house. It was a home, built with hope, hard work, and endless love. As the years went by, our love only grew stronger. Every challenge we faced brought us closer. There were days when life felt heavy, but Jennifer's smile always gave me strength. She had a way of turning even the hardest moments into something beautiful. One summer, a big storm hit our village. The wind was strong, and the rain poured down for hours. The roof of our cottage began to leak, and water started dripping into the kitchen. I climbed up to fix it, but it was slippery and dangerous. Jennifer held the ladder tightly, her hands trembling. "Be careful!" she shouted over the noise of the storm. After hours of work, the roof was patched, and we sat by the fire, soaked and tired. Jennifer handed me a cup of tea and said, "We make a good team, don't we?" I laughed and nodded. In that moment, I realized that no storm could ever shake the foundation of what we had built together. The following spring, Jennifer came to me with another idea. "Let's plant an apple tree in the garden," she said with excitement. "One day we'll sit under its shade and enjoy its fruit." We spent the entire weekend digging, planting, and watering. The tree was small, but it held so much promise. Years later, the tree grew tall and strong, just like our love. Its branches were heavy with bright red apples, and we often sat beneath it, sharing stories and dreams. I remember Jennifer laughing as she handed me an apple. "See, I told you this tree would be special," she said with a grin. One day, Jennifer decided to write a book about our life together. She wanted to capture the memories, the laughter, and even the tears. "I want to leave something behind," she said softly. Every evening, she sat at her desk, writing page after page. Sometimes, she would read her words to me, and we would laugh or cry together. That book became a treasure. It was filled with her beautiful handwriting, pressed flowers from our garden, and photos of us through the years. It was a story of love, hope, and the simple joys of life. As the sun set each day, we would sit on the porch, holding hands and watching the sky turn shades of orange and pink. Jennifer would rest her head on my shoulder and whisper, "This is my favorite place in the world." And I would reply, "Because you're here." Life continued to surprise us in the most wonderful ways. One autumn, Jennifer came to me with another idea. "Let's build a small bench under the apple tree," she suggested. "It'll be our special place." I agreed, and together we gathered wood and tools. We spent the weekend building the bench. It wasn't perfect. One leg was slightly uneven, but it was ours. When it was finished, we sat on it for the first time, side by side, watching the leaves fall gently to the ground. Jennifer leaned against me and said, "This is where we'll grow old together." The bench became our favorite spot. On sunny days, we sat there, enjoying the warmth and the sound of birds singing. On rainy days, we watched droplets fall from the tree branches. It was a place of peace, where we could escape the worries of the world. One day, a little girl from the village came running into our garden. She had lost her way, and her cheeks were wet with tears. Jennifer knelt beside her, wiping her tears and offering her a piece of cake. "You're safe now," Jennifer said gently. The girl stayed with us until her parents came to find her. They were so grateful, and soon they became our close friends. Jennifer often said, "Kindness always brings people together." She was right. Over the years, the apple tree and the bench became symbols of our love. Villagers would pass by and smile, knowing the story behind them. Some even came to sit on the bench, hoping to feel the same warmth and joy that filled our lives. But time didn't stand still. Our hair turned gray, and our steps became slower. Jennifer's health began to fade, but her spirit remained strong. She still found joy in the little things: flowers blooming in spring, the sound of rain, and the laughter of children playing nearby. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Jennifer took my hand. Her voice was soft but steady. "Promise me you'll sit on the bench every day, even when I'm not here," she said. My throat tightened, and I could only nod. That night, as we sat under the apple tree, I held her close. Cherishing every moment, I whispered, "You're my everything, Jennifer." And she smiled, her eyes shining with love. The seasons changed, but my promise to Jennifer remained the same. Every day I walked to the bench under the apple tree. I sat there feeling the breeze and listening to the birds. It was as if Jennifer was still beside me, her laughter echoing in the garden. The villagers often passed by and waved. Some would stop to talk, sharing their stories or asking about the bench. "It's more than a bench," I would say. "It's a memory of love and kindness." They would nod, their faces softening with understanding. One summer, a young couple came to sit under the tree. The man was nervous, holding a small box in his hand. I watched from a distance as he got down on one knee. The woman covered her mouth in surprise, then said, "Yes." They laughed and hugged, and I smiled. It reminded me of my own special moment with Jennifer. The apple tree grew taller, its branches spreading wide. Children came to play in its shade, their laughter filling the air. Sometimes they would ask me about the bench. "Did you build it?" they'd say. I'd nod and tell them, "Yes, with Jennifer." It was our favorite place. Years passed and my steps grew slower. My hair turned white and my hands trembled. But the bench remained strong, just like the love Jennifer and I shared. Sitting there, I felt close to her, as if time couldn't separate us. One day, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with golden hues, I closed my eyes and smiled. I could almost hear Jennifer's voice, soft and warm. "I'm proud of you," she seemed to say. The bench became a part of the village's story, a place where people found peace and love. And though Jennifer was no longer with me, Her spirit lived on in every moment, in every laugh, and in every heart that sat under the apple tree. The villagers often say, "That bench holds more than wood. It holds a lifetime of love," and they are right. It's not just a bench, it's a promise, a memory.